Excuse me. Good evening and welcome to episode number 58 of Freedom Matters Action Group. I am your host, Krishna, tonight. Unfortunately, there is a slight change of plans. Our guests were not able to make it, so we will try to reschedule them. In lieu of that, we'll just do a regular news coverage. So, starting with a couple of public service announcements. We're back on YouTube, folks. Our strike that we got from, I think, a couple of weeks ago has now passed. You can watch us there, but really you should be watching us on platforms that are not big tech, that are not deep state, like Rumble, like MeWe. We are also on Facebook, but again, that's another big tech and deep state platform. You know, please do like watch us on MeWe and Rumble instead. Yeah, this is the last chance you have to register to vote. So if you've not registered to vote, please don't forget to do so. Your deadline is going to be October 4th, which is going to be next week. And it's easy. It's going on vote411.org. So really not many excuses. And, for if anyone's sick and tired of me making that announcement, well, this will be the last time I'll make it because by next week it'll be too late. I'm sure if you are sick of it, then yeah, you'll get your wish in me not saying it anymore. But, as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And that actually ties into the main topic of our show tonight, which is the drag bingo event that happened at First Christian Church in Katy this past Saturday on September 24th. Not really so much the bingo, but the big protest, which I was personally hoping for would be a big turnout of people protesting the drag bingo event and calling out the cultural decay that's pulling our civilization into demise. And I got my wish that it was a good turnout and a big crowd. I was there myself, and I did post several links in the description to this video of recordings that I took. They are raw, they are unedited, and they are uncensored. And it was just me. I didn't have like a camera person to help me with it. So apologies. If the camera quality isn't ideal and there's a lot of moving and turning, but it is raw and it's unedited and it's uncensored. And generally I do like to put out those sorts of things. So yeah, there's that. And I wasn't the only one that took videos of the event protesting it. In fact, I do want to share with you a video that's on the a Twitter account of Taylor Hansen, who's a conservative commentator. And he was actually very close to arm's length to Ashley Babbitt when she got shot on January 6th. And so, yeah, that just adds to his credibility as well as doing what I think, probably a lot of us want to do was be able to get inside and see all the horror that was happening. And that's what I'm showing you right now. So this looks like sort of the closet area that maybe they do their dress rehearsals or like their behind the scenes kind of thing. Oh, he just said bras, folks. You think? They got a lot of teens. Okay. Well, not okay, but understood. Okay, so let me just pause this here. So that's the pastor of the church. It looks like her name is Amanda, but folks, this is what qualifies as a pastor for churches in America. In 2022, the modern day, like 21st century. But this is a manifestation of the extreme and severe cultural and moral and ethical decay that is consuming both the United States and the entire Western world. And I've said many times on the show and will continue to say that's one of the big factors pushing our civilization into demise, and what we here at FMAG are trying to reverse and encouraging you all, the audience, to help us in reversing. So yeah, he was eventually like kicked out of the drag bingo. Yeah, basically, yeah, and the police were basically protecting the drag bingo event, and it looks like, at least in that clip, that they were like basically following the instructions, and might not be a stretch to say orders and marching orders of the church that was putting on this very disgusting drag show. But yeah, as I mentioned, thankfully, the protesters that were there like outnumbered, the counter protesters, and by counter protesters I mean the ones defending the event. The ones defending the event were outnumbered by at least two, probably 3 to 1. The defenders of the event were like right on the curb of the church property, and then the protesters, which is the crowd that I was part of, was on the other side of the street on the lawn there. People had parked their cars and then brought their signs and bullhorns, like myself. And yeah, we dwarfed the other side, which is great. We had some pretty big speakers. So one of them was Jameson Ellis, who ran to primary and get rid of Dan Crenshaw, but unfortunately, the voters of District 2 didn't care enough to vote for him or anybody else to get rid of the god awful globalist Dan Crenshaw. And so, yeah, it was mostly stable and smooth. There were definitely some, negative elements, so to speak, and some bad actors. Certainly, there were guys there, and probably maybe even women too, but it looked like mostly guys that were carrying Antifa flags and donned on the typical Antifa garb, like the black masks and the black long sleeves and the black pants. I don't know how they do it in like 95-degree heat. I mean, I guess I can respect their ability to withstand the heat in black attire for that, but certainly none of their actions and their defense of the drag show. And then even on the defending side, again, the side that was like promoting the drag bingo event, there was one guy that was wearing a kilt, I remember, like on a pickup truck, and he had like an AK-47 or some assault rifle. And these are folks that are very pro gun control, like wielding around, an assault rifle or something, a rifle of that caliber. I think at one point it looked like maybe his finger was on the trigger. He was thankfully only pointing it at the sky, and safety was probably on. But still, you never want to put your finger on the trigger unless you really are, in need of like defending yourself or defending somebody innocent, but only in that circumstance. Um, and I mean, it is Texas, so it is legal for people to openly carry outdoors, especially ARs and other kinds of assault rifles. But that aside, there was a couple of unsmooth and unstable parts of the protesting side that I was on. Like there was one guy that sprayed pepper spray, not on me, thankfully, or anybody that was arm's length from me. But the thing is with pepper spray, folks, that travels very far. So even if somebody that's like 20 or 30 feet away from you gets sprayed, which I think was the case for me, I didn't see the guy that or the woman that pepper sprayed, or I didn't see the man or the woman that got pepper sprayed. But I did feel it like in my eyes. My eyes did sting for a few seconds, and then I also coughed for a few seconds. But I mean, yeah. So it just comes to show that in all these events, you do have to worry about the people like that, people like Antifa, or maybe even the Proud Boys infiltrating and sabotaging and acting as provocateurs to undermine what is like a righteous and peaceful and uh, protest over something that's very disgusting and needs to be protested, like this drag bingo event. And I'm just sharing an article by the Epoch Times that talked about and covered both sides of the protest and those defending the drag show event, and then the pepper spray that was also used, among the crowd of protesters. And yeah, let me also go ahead and put that link in it so that y'all can see it. Yep, so there's that. And then yeah, I forgot to also put the banner for the Twitter video for Taylor Hanson, so you can see that there. And so one lesson that I've learned from this that I think everyone needs to learn is that even on the protesting side, there are people wearing masks, which was very bizarre because if you understand the BS of the drag bingo event and how disgusting that is, then it's very like counterintuitive and pretty much beyond belief that you fail to understand the BS and the falsehoods of the masks, and you continue to wear them, especially when there's absolutely no coercion at all to do it. So that's like a big lesson, is that I'm not going to trust anybody that's wearing a mask, especially in a big crowd like that, like in a protest, where you don't necessarily know everybody that's there, but you assume that they're like on your side and believing the same thing you do. But if they're wearing masks, then that makes it hard to trust them, as it's already hard to trust people that you don't already know, despite the fact that they're at the protest and protesting the same things that you do. And it's great that we need the big numbers, but at the same time, you got to make sure that among those big numbers, that you filter out the people that are actual real bad actors, like the Antifa flag bearers, and even maybe some of the Proud Boys, and then also people that are just exhibiting very suspicious or untrustworthy behavior, like wearing a mask. And I remember, like, I even, called out a couple of folks who were wearing a mask, and they tended to be very defensive, and I would say a little bit rude. I mean, not super rude, but certainly not terribly polite either. But again, the big lesson and takeaway is, in a big crowd, especially in a protest, don't trust anybody wearing a mask. I mean, that's just common sense. So now I do want to move on to a couple of other items that I had planned for the agenda for this show, aside from the drag bingo event. And to folks that live in that area, I think it's important to like really keep protesting this church until they get the message to not only acknowledge that they made a very big mistake and violated the Lord's principles by putting on this drag bingo event, especially when there were like over 100 people protesting and signaling and trying to help them to stop this drag bingo horror show. But perhaps like it might be worth it to approach the church like on their Sunday services and call them out for this and really urge and push them to repent for this big sin that they committed by putting on this drag bingo event. Okay, so the next topic I want to cover is that it looks like the state of Texas, along with some other ones, are losing representation in the House of Representatives that they should be getting, mainly because of the changing populations of the states. So let me go ahead and share the link in the banner. I'll also share my screen so that y'all can follow along. So this comes from the Daily Signal, talking about how the Census Bureau is overcounting 7 blue states and only overcounting just 1 red state. And I know I can't prove it, but I really don't think it's a coincidence that the Bureau, accidentally, quote unquote, accidentally overcounted, 7 blue states versus just 1 red state. I think that's probably purposefully done, to prevent like the deep state and the current regime from letting any more of the red states get any more representation and therefore gain more significant opposing power of opposition against the prevailing current regime, the Biden administration, which of course is very much a minion and agent of the deep state and the larger globalist agenda that's controlling this nation as well as the nations of the entire Western world. So as the Daily Signal is saying, the 2020 survey showed that the Census Bureau overcounted the population in Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, New York, Ohio, Rhode Island, and Utah. So again, Utah being the one and only red state that was overcounted. And funny enough, Delaware happens to be Joe Biden's home state. So what about the states that were undercounted? Let's see here: Arkansas, Florida, Illinois, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas. So yeah, as I mentioned, here in Texas, we are getting undercounted, and our population growth, our significant population growth that we've experienced over the last couple of years, primarily fueled by the COVID lockdowns, the blue states pushing people into red states that aren't as unbearable, though not perfect. When it comes to resisting all these like COVID mandates. So that is going on. Right. So the Bureau said that Texas needed only 189,000 more people to gain another congressional seat. However, the survey shows that Texas was undercounted by 560,319 residents. Folks, that's over 500,000. That's bigger than a lot of towns and cities in the United States. And so if we only needed 189,000 more people to gain another seat, that means that we should be getting at least 2 more congressional seats. So, why this matters, aside from everything I've just said, aside from accuracy in our population count, as well as accuracy in full representation, for the state of Texas, is that, we're deprived of 2 more congressmen who could be Republicans or who could be GOP, and opposing the current Democrat regime. Yes, it's true that those 2 additional congressmen or women could be rhinos or they could be Democrats, but quite frankly, the most important thing is that there needs to be 2 more representatives given the census and the increased population here in Texas, but we were being deprived of that. And conversely, that means that the states that have lost people who have exited those states and gone to states like Texas and Florida, those states need to lose congressmen and women, again, to get a proper and accurate count of our congressional representation and to therefore ensure the integrity of our democracy. I mean, the election fraud aside, as well as the integrity of our republic. So, I mean, is this a subtle form of election fraud? Yeah, I kind of have to think so in the sense that, for all the bills that get passed through Congress, and Lord knows, too many bills are allowed to pass that have wording that violate our fundamental rights and liberties. I don't know why Congress, doesn't have limits on its lawmaking power and its power to pass bills that violate our rights and liberties. And I don't know why Congress is not prohibited from, passing laws that to violate our rights and liberties. Why should Congress have the power to pass laws that, let's say, abolish the Second Amendment? Just because it passes Congress doesn't mean that that should do away with the Second Amendment, right? But in any case, we states that should be getting more congressmen and women are not, and the states that should be experiencing a reduction in their congressional representation or not. So, aside with the election fraud, aside with the rampant corruption, in our current regime and government in DC, we now have fraud in our congressional counting. I mean, I guess, it shouldn't come as a surprise and go figure, but it's all the more troubling and needs to be reversed. So now I'll switch to the final topic of commentary for the show. And we did mention this in last week's show, is that tomorrow will be the one and only debate for the state governor election here in Texas between incumbent Republican Greg Abbott and the Democrat challenger Robert Francis O'Rourke. Again, I do not call him Beto because he's not the least bit Hispanic, and he's only using the pseudonym Beto to pander to the Hispanics when quite frankly none of his policies are going to really benefit either Hispanics exclusively in any significant way, nor are they going to really benefit anybody else in any major significant way. I mean, other than his own personal power gain. So that's why here at FMAG we are going to vote for Greg Abbott, and we are going to encourage people to also vote for Greg Abbott. Not that Greg Abbott is without his flaws, but O'Rourke shares all of Greg Abbott's flaws without sharing any of his redeeming qualities. And I understand that voting for Greg Abbott is voting for a rhino, but sitting behind the sidelines and saying, "Oh, I don't like either of them because none of them are hardcore conservatives," I mean, really kind of runs the risk of opening the chance that O'Rourke does win the election. And if that happens, then you're at risk of losing your guns. Perhaps having an income tax, having higher property taxes, maybe having more power grid shutdowns with the deindustrialization of coal power plants, and the move to spend taxpayer money on green energy debacles like the solar and wind turbines, which have not proven to be effective through the example of Europe. So yeah, get out and vote for Greg Abbott. I mean, I know that O'Rourke is not going to order the Methodist hospitals or any other hospital to, disclose how many deaths they've had, from people from patients who they've given the COVID vaccine to. I mean, neither of the candidates will, but the worst part about it is that the media is not going to ask that question to either of the candidates, which they should, and the people deserve to know. So as I mentioned in last week's show, that's one major question that the media is going to fail to ask the candidates. I think that's probably the only major failing that the media will do as far as omitting questions in this debate that that we'll see to be the case in tomorrow's debate. But I mean, if there are any others, do let us know, and certainly we'll cover that perhaps next week after the debate happens tomorrow. And just as a reminder, it is the only debate that Greg Abbott has agreed to do with O'Rourke. So try to watch it live tomorrow if you can. If you can't, definitely do watch the recording. I'm pretty sure it'll be on every local station. I couldn't imagine any local station not broadcasting the debate for the governor's election that's coming up this November. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see that, because I mean, in the primary, certainly there was no debate between either the incumbent Greg Abbott versus any of the primary challengers who FMAG endorsed, and certainly, I mean, there might have been a debate maybe in the Democratic primary. I don't remember following it, but certainly since then there's not been a debate between Greg Abbott and O'Rourke. And as I mentioned, tomorrow's debate will be the one and only that will happen. So that will be the case. So yeah, I think we can end the show on that note. And yeah, just as a preview for next week, we'll be having G2 as our guest, and we have had him before, so it'll be good to have him on back again. So yeah, make sure, as always, to tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And with that, we can say good evening. We love you, and thank you all for watching our show here at FMAG, and we look forward to being with you next week as well. Good night.